Hey there, Scott. Thank you for coming to the meeting. So, you remember how before COVID-19 happened, we were planning on opening up an additional location for Camp Scene, perhaps in Marietta or Smyrna. And then COVID happened, and we had to incur that loss, and the idea of opening up a new location just went out the window. Well, as we're rebranding from Camp Scene to Outdoors More, and we're opening up our forest school, I think that what we can do as another step to our rebranding process is actually start up a few new branches of Camp Scene, but without the physical location. What I think we can do instead is use our buses as an entire plan of mode of operation for Camp Scene slash Outdoors More. So my idea is called the Eco Bus, and I'm still workshopping the name. And what I would like to do with the EcoBus is use it specifically as an outreach tool to those Smyrnas and Mariettas and downtown Atlantas, the places that we were talking about going to, but the costs of real estate there and gardens has just gotten out of hand, and we can no longer afford to think about locations like that. But in so many cases, there are children who need affordable childcare who live in areas like that, and their parents just are not able to send them because it's simply too expensive. And I think that that is part of a market that we can penetrate as Camp Scene slash Outdoors More, because we already have such a strong brand identity indicator. It would be relatively easy to have testimonials from all of our Camp Scene and Outdoors More parents and get into those other spaces and generate a brand identity and be part of the value creation of different communities. About 50% of households that make $60,000 or less, they can't afford to send their children to a childcare center because they're so expensive. In Metro Atlanta, childcare is on the cheap side will be about $15, or the more expensive ones will be about $30. And whether or not people can afford to send their child to childcare is entirely dependent on their zip code. So what we could do at Camp Scene, since we don't spend so much money on on programming when we go hiking, all we would have to really do is pay for the buses, and then we can operate almost entirely with just that. Our biggest competitors would be churches. Those are already low cost options, but churches have the issue of only being able to access the schools that are generally in their immediate vicinity. And we also have the advantage of non-religious parents who would also come to us, since I don't think that really non-religious parents want to send their child to a church camp. We also would have sports as the competitors, but as you and I know, many kids are not very competitive, and so if they don't want to participate in some sort of sporting activity, then that would be in our wheelhouse to be able to get them as well. So my idea is that we use our mobility to our advantage and pick up children who sign up from our singular satellite point that we can easily pick up multiple children from multiple schools. Perhaps have about 4 or 5 children per school, ideally. And if there's only like maybe one, then maybe we can't service that school. But our niche is that we're naturally low cost because we're able to provide our entire programming with nothing but a bus and a park or a hiking trail. So much like we already do for our field trips, we would have an educator, myself for example, pick up children from school, and they would get on the bus and they would get a snack. And then after they get their snack, we would go and pick up the different children from the different school. If they get out at the same time, we'd have to drop off an educator there so I could pick them and the educator up, or the camp counselor up. And then after we've collected all of our children for the day, we then head off to our hiking trail. Now, the hiking trail, it can be some of the many that we already use, or because we know that we're going to have a wider range of areas that we're taking the kids to, we can get into some new ones. but we already have a wealth of information about all the hiking trails in the metro Atlanta area, and we can certainly use that to our advantage. As you know, many of them have nature centers that we can use when it's raining, and those are entirely free. We can also take them to Fernbank Museum, which is free, or we can take them to a lower cost museum if it's raining. After we take them on the hike, we can go to many of the different parks and just have our educators keep a very firm eye on all the kids as they're playing games and activities. So, two of the educators on the bus can be running games and activities with the kids while the other one coordinates parent pickup. And the parent comes over to the park or the field where the kids are playing and picks them up from there. And that would be our option to have our low cost field trips, which is just a hike and a snack and gas, and the price of the bus is all it would really cost us, and we can operate from there. So, as you've told me before, a bus would cost about $60,000 to $150,000. We could rent or we can lease it, but we could have a variety of options as well. The children who can only afford to just do the hike and that's it, we'll have them at $15 a day at the lower end. That should be affordable for most of them. And we can do activities like bird watching or knot tying, wilderness survival, all of these things that we already do that wouldn't really cost us any money. And so, if we wanted to have a more premium option to increase our profit margin, what we could do is offer them rock climbing or horseback riding or different things in the area that we can collaborate with and have those be more expensive options. So, if you wanted to do horseback riding every second Tuesday or something like that, then it would be an additional, your cost would be $22 a day, for example, however we would price it out. So the idea is to increase our flexibility as we try to attract a wide variety of consumers, not just budget, but budget and premium clients. So that is my pitch for the EcoBus. I genuinely think that we are able to use this opportunity to solve the problem of childcare accessibility, because that is something that so many parents that I have spoken to before have told me that they would love to send their child to a camp like ours, but they simply can't afford it. So if we're able to minimize the offerings of our programming and bring it down to low costs versus high cost and give our client base options in between, that'll diversify our streams of income as we expand and grow past just the city of Decatur. So, Scott, what do you think?